Now looking to France, where voters have chosen centrist Emmanuel Macron and nationalist leader Marine Le Pen to go head-to-head in round two of its presidential election. The nation on high alert as voters cast ballots today, just 3 days after a deadly terrorist attack in Paris. A series of recent attacks across France and clouding the campaign. President Trump tweeting Friday, quote, another terrorist attack in Paris. The people of France will not take much more of this. Will have a big effect on France's presidential election. All right, let's bring in now James Jeffrey. He's a former U.S. ambassador to Iraq and Turkey, former deputy national security advisor to President George W. Bush, and a distinguished fellow at the Washington Institute. Ambassador, so nice to have you here. I'll start with the tweet, Ambassador. President Trump, I guess covertly, some would say, endorsed Le Pen. What does this mean for the U.S. relationship with France if Le Pen wins the presidency? And what if Emmanuel Macron wins? And particularly, what's going to be the impact on U.S. foreign policy?
That's a really good question. First of all, Le Pen, by almost any standard, will not win. She got about 22% of the votes. Macron got about perhaps 23, but almost all of the roughly 50% plus of people who voted for other candidates will vote for Macron or sit at home. So Le Pen isn't going to be the president. There will be no problem between Macron when he becomes president, assuming he does, and President Trump. People understand that the tweets are the tweets, but U.S. foreign policy is very pro-NATO at present. It's very challenging Russia in places like Ukraine, and Macron will work very well with President Trump on this. But again, terrorism is a huge problem in France as well as around the world, and France is our #1 ally, but also much targeted by terror as well.
And we were just looking at live shots there on the screen here of Macron making his way through the crowd. They're doing a victory lap. 39-year-old newcomer to politics, already being endorsed by Francois Fillon, the conservative who did not make it into the runoff. But what's now at stake, Ambassador? Emmanuel Macron or Marine Le Pen? You know, when you're talking about winning the May 7th runoff, who has the better chance, and which is the better candidate for D.C.?
For D.C., almost certainly Macron, and he almost certainly will win, as I said. But here's the important backstory. Over 40% of voters today voted either for Le Pen, who's far to the right of Donald Trump, or a far-left candidate, far to the left of Bernie Sanders, Mélenchon. Over 40% of the voters. That's up over 1/3 from 2012, the last time the two ran, and got less than 30%. France is a country in internal turmoil. It's immigration, it's terrorism, it's an unemployment rate almost 3 times that of Germany's. If Macron can't fix this, and as you said, he's inexperienced, he's been economy minister briefly, he's never been in parliament. If he can't turn this around, he's going to be in the same trouble that the current president Hollande is.
Well, then we were looking at the shots there at 10:35 p.m. in Paris. There, Macron there is thanking his supporters for getting him into this runoff here against Marine Le Pen, the blue-collar nationalist, far-right candidate, anti-European, anti-establishment. You know, so listen, if Marine Le Pen, say, gets in, if she becomes president, and if France were to exit the EU, all hypothetical at this point, of course, does the EU collapse, Ambassador? And what does that mean for Europe when you're looking at issues like the fight against terrorism, border control, organized immigration, the economies of the individual nations of the 28 EU nations even?
Given the dissatisfaction and the problems of France, this is the most important election of de Gaulle's Fifth Republic since he created it 60 years ago. Nonetheless, it's very unlikely that Le Pen would get in. The other thing is, France has a separate parliamentary system, and the parliament is to the left of center, and she would have a very hard time making a lot of changes unless she held new elections and won there, which she probably wouldn't. She's personally far more popular than her party. So I don't think that she, as a threat for this presidential cycle, is going to materialize. But the movement behind her, the problems of that country, they have to be solved the next time either she or somebody from the extreme left will probably become president.
Yeah, you made a good point, though. I mean, look, we can't, this was a very close tie, not a tie, but a close runoff vote, getting them to the runoff. You've got 23.7% of the vote for Emmanuel Macron and then 21.7% for Marine Le Pen. I mean, as you're saying, you are saying, Ambassador, that you don't think that Marine Le Pen can actually win, but this guy is a newcomer. He still has a lot to prove. You know, what they're going to be campaigning on, how they're going to be campaigning from this point on for the next 2 weeks will really be very important. And I want to know if you think Macron has what it's going to take in terms of campaign organization to get his message out there.
He did a pretty good job, and that's why he came in first. But ultimately, most of the people who voted for the number 3 and the number 4 candidates in this election, Fillon and Mélenchon, are almost certainly going to either stay at home or vote for Macron. That's what will get him over the top. But you cannot ever rule out Marine Le Pen. She's a very, very able organizer and campaigner, and her message appeals to a lot of French people who suffer from unemployment, are unhappy about immigration, and fear terror.
This is true. And listen, speaking of Marine Le Pen, you know, we go back to this scenario. If France exits from the EU and/or NATO, what kind of opening, Ambassador, does this give Vladimir Putin in terms of expanding his political footprint? And are the voters of France thinking about that?
Putin would be delighted at any and all of that. He's been working behind the scenes in the various elections and the various political parties throughout Europe, including in France, to that end. He hasn't obviously had much of an impact, and it's not going to happen. But nonetheless, it shows the stress that these institutions are under right now, thanks to bad policies, bad economies, particularly in Europe over the past decade.
Ambassador James Jeffrey, I have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your analysis, sir.
Thank you.